Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, October 25th, 2017.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com, coming to you from rainy Buffalo, New York, which I'm sick and tired of it raining, Russ.
Yeah, no rain here. It looked like it was gonna, but it's not.
Yeah, anyway, we had an 11-game schedule last night, so we're going to get into some of the games and some of the happenings from last night. Let's start with there were some comments that were made by a borderline Hall of Famer that I think you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about Jeremy Roenick for a second. Who, look, I get that his job is to sort of be on the edge and, shoot from the hip. And he was like that. Look, he was like that as a player.
Yes.
I get it. But here's a quote. And he did it on FanRag Sports, which, whatever, I don't know that website very well. But
they specialize in transcribing other people's comments.
Okay. So here are his comments in an interview. And I'm just going to go from the point where he obviously loves Vegas. He referred to the Coyotes as the AHL Coyotes, and he said that because, we know why. So he says now he's comparing the Coyotes to the Vegas Knights. I make this comparison only because of what I watch with Vegas. Arizona has a fast team. They have talented players, but most of them are dumb as a box of rocks. There's no hockey IQ in them whatsoever right now with what they do with the puck or how they play or how they support each other, whereas Vegas is totally the opposite. Okay, here's the thing. First off, this is lazy. Lazy beyond belief because really he's not giving us any examples. He's not telling us one player. So Clayton Keller, who's 10 points in 9 games, who's already being applauded for his great hockey IQ, gets lumped into this now because this idiot decides he's going to put everybody on this list. Christian Dvorak's a very smart player. They have some very smart players there. You know what? It's a new system.
Max Domi is a pretty astute.
He's a smart player.
And Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And I'm not trying to attack JR, but honestly, when you're in a contest on NBC and it's Mike Milbury versus Jeremy Roenick and Mike Milbury wins, that should tell you something about Jeremy Roenick.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like this for me. These are all young developing players. Rick Tocchet running his own system. He's trying to copy the Penguins. That's a mistake. They don't have the Penguins personnel. So already, if I was Rick Tocchet, I would already be trying to tailor that system best I can to his current personnel.
Right.
Because, again, I think we've all learned from other sports, the NFL and otherwise, the NFL where really 99% of the teams run the same offense. You can't do it for everybody. It doesn't work. Sometimes you have to tailor things for the players you have. And Rick Tocchet's not blaming all his players. He can if he wants to, but he's not. But Jeremy Roenick is because he's decided they're all dumb. Well, you know what?
It's a hot take. It's a hot take.
No, it's more than a hot take. It's really just a jerkish take.
Right.
And Clayton Keller is going to be a way better player than Jeremy Roenick ever was. And that's, again, I don't know if he can handle that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that he's trying to, that Tocchet is trying to model, his strategy after what the Penguins did. Because, we know what the Penguins did. The Penguins, especially last year without Chris Letang, they had a defense that would dump the puck out into zones and let the speedy Pittsburgh forwards catch up to it. Now, Arizona's forwards are fast, and there's a lot of offensive talent there. But it's not Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Phil Kessel. These kids that they have are going to take a couple years to develop. They actually have a pretty decent defense. What would probably be more beneficial for them is for them to play a more strapped-down defensive style, limit chances, and with the talent that you have, score goals on the power play or score on the counterattack, and you might win more games. They're 0-8-1. They lost to the Islanders yesterday, 5-3. The Islanders.
That game was tied 3-3. They actually came back and tied it.
The Islanders had only 25 shots in the game, and I know Louis Domingue was in there.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, this.
I know. I couldn't applaud the entire Islanders' effort because of how bad the Coyotes were too. It's a combination. Now, the other thing with Pittsburgh is while they're playing that way, they do have excellent goaltending, and Arizona doesn't have excellent goaltending. Nobody's been excellent for them.
Yeah, Ronta's injured. I guess he's close to coming back. But, and we've talked
about it. They don't have a lot of guys in their system youth-wise that they would be able to bring along in the next couple of years. So this Ronta signing was their big offseason signing, and it was a risk. We talked about it being a risk from the very start that, hey, he's never been a number one before. Now you're expecting him to be a number one. Domingue looked like an okay goalie. He was an average to below average. I think Eck overvalued him a little, to be honest. Yeah, and this is why you're at where you're at. But you're not at where you're at because these players have been playing stupid hockey. That's not the reason.
And this is an overgeneralization, but I also watched a little bit of the Carolina-Tampa game, and we'll get to that in a second. But since we're talking about goaltenders, the two examples of number two goaltenders who were given the shot at being number ones were Antti Ranta and Scott Darling this year. Darling did not have a good game against Tampa. Now, Tampa is loaded. They're one of the most talented offensive teams in the league. He's doing okay right now, but there's a reason why these guys are, I think Darling is 27 or 28. We know he spent time in this Southern Professional Hockey League, worked his way up. It's a great story. I don't have anything against Scott Darling. I just question whether he's a number one goaltender. Now, this is a roll of the dice that Carolina took. It's also a roll of the dice that Arizona took. They figured they weren't going to be good enough to have Mike Smith earning the money that he was making, so they traded him off for assets, and they went with a cheaper option who was only on a contract, I think, for 1 year, and said, okay, well, maybe we find ourselves a number one goaltender here. Well, Ranta hasn't shown that. He's gotten hurt. Domingue, hasn't really done much in a couple years. I mean, he had his moments, but I don't know if he's anything more than a backup goaltender. And this is a franchise that needs that backstop, like Vegas has with Fleury. If you don't have solid goaltending, everything else can pretty much,
it's not going to work.
So, it's a disaster right now. And I don't know, we know that right now it's probably not going to be, they're not going to fire Rick Tocchet after 9 games, but.
No, but I got to tell you, here's the thing. It's not going to look good if he comes into Philly, a place where he had a really nice career, and he comes in as an offer for a coach. If that happens, there's going to be a lot of press about that. Trust me. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, I told you I didn't like the hiring because I told you that when he was in charge of Tampa, all he basically did was say, Steve Stamkos, go play your game. And that's really all he did. And he got more credit than Barry Melrose because Barry Melrose said Steve Stamkos sit in the press box. But he didn't do much else. Now, again, he's been with the World Championship team, so you look at him and you say, okay, he's worthy of another chance, same way John Stevens is. Mm-hmm. But clearly, you have to bring in the right system for the right players. You do. Yeah. So, that's going to be an ongoing story because, the Coyotes now are 0-8-1. If you would, and I'll say this again, if you would have said 8-9 games into the season, one team would be 0-8-1 and one team would be 7-1 between Vegas and Arizona. 99% of the people would have said Vegas would be 0-8-1. Yeah. So yeah, no question. It's a great time for Vegas. We'll see what happens after 20 or 30 games. I get that their style is working because everybody's getting in on the scoring and it's great and the speed's working. And look, even Oscar Dansk, a guy who I was very high on years ago, is getting his chance, and I'm happy for that. Doesn't mean it's going to last. I don't think it's going to last. Well, let's just hop to that one because we were just talking about them. They beat the Blackhawks 4-2. William Karlsson, Nosek, Belmar, and Marchessault get the goals. Dansk with let's see, he had 29 saves. Yeah. So and he's won both games. So they've gotten a couple of victories out of Subban, a couple of victories out of Dansk, 3 victories out of Fleury. They're getting good goaltending. I think they're playing with a lot of emotion because of everything that happened in Vegas. It's a great story, but again, everybody wants Cinderella. Everybody wants oh my God, out of nowhere, this hodgepodge team. It's like Major League. Everybody wants that. It's not, I would be dumbfounded if this team is 500 by the halfway mark. Yeah, I would agree. If that happens, I'll be shocked and I'll say, wow, this is truly amazing. But we'll see. I mean, right now it's too early.
Okay, the game that you were at was interesting on a number of levels. Anaheim, on a number of levels. Anaheim beats Philadelphia 6-2. Let's start with Anaheim because a lot of the fun was on the Flyers side. Hampus Lindholm comes back. They're still without Vatanen. They're still without Fowler, who hurt his knee last week. He's probably going to be out probably at least a month. Russ, their defense didn't look like they missed those guys.
No, but Lindholm was great. He was firing pucks. He looked really into it. He looked really good. Montour was fantastic. Defensively, offensively, he scored a goal. He was stopping plays. He was quick up the ice. Like, Brandon Montour is a player, man. I think he's better than Sammy Vatanen. I do. And I think he's developed even quicker than I maybe had hoped he would, because I was very high on him in his draft year. But, boy, he has really come out of the gate hard, and that's really helped Anaheim. Also, look, Ryan Getzlaf in his first game back, I got to tell you, and for the little bit of grief that I gave him last year, and then he finished really, strong that whole second half. Mm-hmm. He's a much faster, much better shaped player than I think he was 2 or 3 years ago. And I think he had to get that way because he was getting a little older. But he came off the scrap heap, from basically the IR yesterday, and you would never have known this guy was out and missed any games at all.
I think these veteran players, I know that, like, Lundqvist talked about this a couple years ago, losing weight to be more athletic, more, less strain on the knees, all those things. Dustin Brown, I saw in Toronto on Monday. He's a different player. He's faster. Now, I didn't get a chance to talk to him in the locker room, but it looks like he's leaner because he's quicker. Yeah. I mean, there could be something with his workouts over the summer, but I think Getzlaf got a lot leaner because he is a lot quicker than he used to.
I saw him there without his shirt on. He's definitely less bulky than he was, and it's working for him. I mean, it's really working for him. Again, Bieksa, I told you, you wanted to know how he played. He played great. He skated great. He was in on the action. He had points. He had a fight. His fight looked like Bull against Glass Joe, and Radko Gudas played the part of Glass Joe. And man, one punch, man. And he measured him like it was, he waited 2 or 3 seconds and he took the one punch and then he knocked him down. Now the interesting thing is he actually mouthed and said, "Hey, are you okay?" after, because he felt bad, but in the locker room he was totally like, smiling and gloating.
Well, all I can say is that we can now call Francois Beauchemin the Radim Verbata of defensemen, because not that he played great last night. I didn't see a lot of the game, but he's an effective guy.
He's effective. That's it.
Yeah, and he was not effective in Colorado, because in Colorado they were expecting him to play 25 minutes or 20 to 25 minutes a night based on what they were paying him. There, he's not being paid even close to that, and he's comfortable there. Carlisle knows to put him either on the bottom pairing or the mid pairing right now with the injuries, and it works. I mean, they you knew when he went back to Anaheim that he would be at the least he'd be effective.
I mean, Anaheim's built for the long haul here. Now that they've got Getzlaf back and he's coming in with fresh legs, that's good. Him and Perry still have instant chemistry like when they won the Stanley Cup. Right. Kessler's not even there yet. When they get Kessler back, they'll be at full strength as far as their core unit.
Right.
They're in good shape. I mean, they're big. When Nick Ritchie's in the crease, you really have to have big defensemen to clear him out. Robert Hagg could not do anything with Nick Ritchie in the crease at 235 pounds. Like, they're a team built to get to the Stanley Cup.
Right, and I agree with that, and they were my pick. Now the thing is, last year we started to see a little of that sort of transition that started to happen in San Jose with Couture, Pavelski, with Hurdle, the younger generation taking over. Last year it wasn't all Getzlaf, Perry, and Kessler. It was Kasha to an extent.
Kasha looked great last night. Raquel looked great last night.
Silverberg. I mean, there's a young group now. When they do get all their players back, they are going to be powerful, but they lost Patrick Eaves. We talked about that yesterday. They lost Patrick Eaves, and maybe Patrick Eaves was just a third-line guy, but I think that team, the only question mark, they're deep on defense. They now have the goaltending with Gibson and Miller.
And Miller was on the trip. So Miller must be getting healthier because he was in the locker room last night. And I got to tell you, Gibson played great. Great to the point that even when the Flyers were on the power play and Shane Gostisbehere was winding up for a one-timer, Gibson gloved a low one-timer in the corner like it was nothing. Like he was locked in. Voracek had a breakaway on, 1-0, and Gibson basically got him pushed to the corner to where he basically had a short side or nothing, and he just stoned him. Like he really, I wish Eck would have seen this game. I hope he did, to see what John Gibson really is.
Right. The only question mark with Anaheim going forward is the depth on their offense, and that's why with the depth that they have on the blue line, they probably will be able to get themselves a rental forward, or even somebody who's got a contract that extends past the end of the year, because they have what a lot of teams will be looking for, which is a defense. I don't think they're going to trade Montour. Maybe they would trade Jakob Larson, or maybe they trade somebody who was just extended like a Vatanen. I don't think they're going to trade Lindholm, but
no, I don't think so.
But they have defense.
I think Vatanen is the odd man out now.
Yeah. Okay, on the Philadelphia side, Nolan Patrick gets crunched against the boards. Now, I didn't see it, Russ. How bad was it?
It was a side impact. His head hit the glass. There was like a whiplash effect. He was wobbly when he came off the ice. I think Wagner's the one that hit him. He's a big guy. Here's the thing. This is why you always hesitate putting in somebody who's 18 years old and could use this, another 15 pounds of muscle, which he definitely will gain in his lifetime, And when you put in those guys early, he braced himself for that hit, but he just was not ready for that hit physically. And that's another reason why I think he hit the glass hard. I mean, a lot of players who aren't prone to contact would try maybe jump above, right? And limit the impact. He didn't do that because I think he's a tough guy. But the thing is, right now, NHL strength isn't there. He's playing great. Don't get me wrong. I think he's doing everything right. But this is the risk that you have when a player's not fully developed physically, that those kinds of hits can happen. And when you play against – listen, the Anaheim Ducks were almost like men among boys yesterday playing against the Flyers. They took them to school.
Yeah. Now, I saw some of the post game, and it was a curious comment from Shane Gostisbehere. And this is something that a lot of players in the league have to deal with. I mean, you could say that he used it as an excuse, but I've heard it from other teams at other times before, and it is a factor. You've got a lot of these multi-purpose stadiums, arenas that are being used where, for example, and there have been any complaints in Toronto, but for example, that's a multi-purpose arena that's used by the Raptors in the NBA, the Leafs in the NHL, and then they have concerts. And pretty much after leaving the ACC, they start putting on the floor for the basketball game or for the concert right after. So Gostisbehere in his post-game remarks yesterday commented on how bad the ice was. I think he said it was the worst ice he'd ever played on.
He did. And he didn't
want to use it as an excuse, but when the ice is that bad, it is an excuse.
I mean, he said it the right way so that I felt like he wasn't really making it an excuse more than just making it known, where Giroux, being the captain, didn't really want to answer those questions. So he said he wasn't going to answer those questions and that he would look into it. But, it turns out it may have been a temperature issue where the temperature just wasn't right. And so the ice wasn't right. And if that's the case, it'll be right next time. But, hey, it was one of those things where players now, we're in an era, and you saw it with the Barclays Center, players don't hide from that anymore. For how many years did players hide the bad ice at MSG? We'd all see it, but they would never talk about it. Now, if the ice stinks, players are talking about it because unfortunately, the margin of error is so little in this league that even just one game with bad ice could cost you something down the line. You never know.
A couple notes on the Wayne Simmons.
That's not why they lost this game.
Yes, no. Wayne Simmons was injured. He's lower body injury. Didn't say
Yeah, I didn't notice it. I don't know what's going on with that one.
Yeah, and I have to say, of what I watched of that game, Brian Elliott was Brian Elliott.
Yeah, for the first 5 minutes, he was terrific. But then after that, he wasn't. But also the Flyers' defense was awful. It was a hot mess because they started switching around the pairings. Obviously, it wasn't working out with Provorov and Haig, and so they started switching it around. Late in the game, they finally stuck with Provorov and Sanheim, and you saw Sanheim got his first NHL point. And if Hackstall's smart, he sticks with Provorov and Sanheim. So this way, Gostisbehere and Hag can go back. Like, he should have just kept them together anyhow because they were already doing well. Some would have said that was their best pairing, even though Provorov is their top defenseman for this entire time. And when you broke that up, everything was askew. All of their players, none of the deep pairings were working until late. And so I think like I said, I would put Sanheim up in that top pairing and see what he can do there because, he had one not so great play, but he had a lot of other good plays, and he did get on the scoreboard.
Okay, in the battle of the boring games, because I was flipping through and trying to watch as much as I could of each of them in preparation for today. NBC scheduling-wise scheduled Detroit-Buffalo with Edmonton-Pittsburgh on the docket, which I'm shocked.
Right, just so you know, Matt Gaffney's saying that Simmons took a slap shot off the ankle. Yeah, I missed that. I didn't see it, and I didn't see him limping around the locker room.
Yeah. No, I caught enough of this game to get the gist of both of them. It was a 1-0 Sabre victory. Robin Leonard with a shutout. It was 2-1 Pittsburgh over Edmonton. We'll talk about that one first. Yeah. But first, just to say, NBC. No, I caught enough of this game to get the gist of both of them. It was a 1-0 Sabre victory. We're getting the repeat. Did you open up?
Yeah, because something happened on my browser. Sorry.
Oh, okay, no problem. I don't understand NBC's decision. I don't care if it's a team. The market is in Canada. It's Connor McDavid. He's one of the best players in the league. Yes. Against the Stanley Cup champion. If they had a chance to opt out of one game for another game, they should have done it for that one. They didn't, but it wasn't a great game. But watching that Edmonton-Pittsburgh game, Russ, it's McDavid and everybody else. Right now he's getting no help, and I
heard Yamamoto fanned on an open net, but that's going to happen with a young player. Konechny did the same thing, and he's a second-year player, right? I mean, Konechny did the same thing last night. Jordan Wheel, I think, also. So it happens.
Right, but I mean, the thing is, it's like right now McDavid is not getting any help. I mean, everything sort of flows through him. Now, the Draisaitl was back yesterday. I hardly noticed him.
Yeah, he's probably not 100% yet. And we don't even know what the injury was.
Didn't they reveal it?
No.
Oh, boy. Well, I mean, all I know is that McDavid got them a point. He scores a goal. Now that was his first goal in 7 games. They're not winning. It's not McDavid's fault. People are asking, what's wrong with McDavid?
It's not him. No, it's not.
It's not him. What's going on is there's no structure around other than him. If teams put their best checking line on him and limit his chances, they're done. And that's what Pittsburgh did yesterday. It was 1-1, go to overtime. Malkin sets up Kessel for the winner. There you go. I mean, and McDavid scored an absolutely perfect shot.
Yeah, and Riley Sheehan got an assist for the Pens goal. That was a good pickup for them because I think Riley Sheehan needed to get out of Detroit. I do.
Well, I think he needed to get out of Detroit, but I also I'm not sure if he's a third line center, but he's a definite upgrade from Greg McKegg. Who's been a minor leaguer for
journeyman. Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Nice guy. No,
he is. I like the guy personally, but he's a journeyman.
I've talked to him a couple times back in the day when he was with the Marlies. Yeah, I mean, he's had a cup of coffee with Tampa Bay, with Florida. He's not a full-time NHL player. Right. He can come up and play and fit in, but I don't think he's a third-line center. And that was a good move by Rutherford to get somebody who, had the worst year of his career last year with 2 goals.
Yeah, and to answer the chat room, it's not like they're saying the Oilers need defensemen. They don't need defensemen. They need offensive defensemen. They don't have one offensive defenseman, one legit offensive defenseman in that group. Oscar Klefbom was never that legit offensive threat.
No, and I think even more than defensemen, they need wingers because that's why. First of all, that's why Yamamoto is up. Second of all, when your second best forward, who's a center, who they drafted as a center, who they want to keep as a center, who they're going to build their team around, him and McDavid as a center, when they have to move him to the wing because they have nobody else that can score with McDavid, that's a problem. Yes. Patrick Maroon is the modern day Brett Callaghan or B.J. McDonald who played with
Murray.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying, like these guys that played with Gretzky before Gretzky had Curry.
Yeah.
You know, they scored 35, 40 goals, but the problem was they weren't 35 or 40 goal scorers. They were only there because Gretzky passed it off of them into the net.
Well, Glenn Murray played with Joe Thornton, right? He got a lot of goals from Joe Thornton.
That's true. Or Jonathan Chichu.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. 56. I think he was 56 goals. But yeah, I mean that is the problem. And I think Yamamoto is going to be a fine NHLer. I think Puljujarvi is going to be really good, but it's too early for him. But right now you've got Maroon playing with McDavid, and that works. You've got Lucic playing with Nugent Hopkins because Lucic can't keep up with McDavid. And
I got to tell you, that line does not work.
No. So
I got to figure out what to do with Lucic because they've got, 3 more years of him?
3. I think it's 5. I think it was a 6-year contract. It's 6 or 7.
Boy, that's a rough contract. Now, in the postseason, Lucic could be a really devastating guy to have in your team, but he could also be devastatingly bad to an offense in the regular season.
Yeah.
3 points.
I'm pretty sure Lucic's contract was a 7-year deal, but I'm just double checking right now. Here you go.
He's got 3 points. That's not going to cut it.
Yeah, Lucic has after this year has 5 more years at $6 million. So it was a 7-year deal.
He needs to get it going.
Well, I don't think it's that he's not trying. I think he's he probably can only get as fast as he's going to get, but he needs to do something else with his game so that he can get back to scoring goals. Now, Tampa Bay, I mean, not that this is a surprise. I mean, well, maybe to Eck it is because he picked Toronto over Tampa, but Tampa it was my pick to win the.
Mine too, Tampa against Anaheim. That's what I think it's going to be.
Yeah, they beat Carolina 5-1. Let's talk Tampa first. Tyler Johnson, Sergachev, Nemestikov is playing with Stamkos, and Stamkos. See that guy with like 19 points or something? Yeah, 17 assists. His absence didn't mean anything for that team. You know, just they just could. You know, come on, please, come on. But Nemestikov playing with Kucherov and Stamkos. That's not a bad number 1 line.
Kucherov, that guy with like 11 goals.
Yeah. This guy. Montreal fans, can you tell me who this guy is? His name is Sergachev. Yeah.
4 goals, 9 points.
Yeah, he's got. Does he have more? I think he has. He may have more goals than the Canadians have all year.
No.
But okay,
that's not fair.
This is a great team. If they stay healthy, which has always been, knock on wood, which has always been their problem, especially with Stamkos. You know, right now they're all 8 cylinders are purring. They're not having any problems with their defense because they're scoring so many goals. Vasilevsky's playing great. So I mean, right now everything's going right for the Lightning. For the Hurricanes, again, I like this team. The Scott Darling is a question mark for me. I need to be convinced. I needed to be convinced with Cam Talbot. I have to say that Talbot.
Darling needs more convincing now than Talbot because he has not come out of the gate great.
Right, and again with Carolina, you notice it. There's not a ton of offense there.
Right.
There are some really talented individual players. I like Teravainen. Skinner, if he stays away from concussions, is one of the quickest forwards and very talented. Jordan Stahl's a good 2-way center. They've got some pieces.
Sebastian Aho, they have players.
They have some players, but I don't think they have enough offense to win that 7th or 8th spot in the Eastern.
You know what's funny? Back in the day when they won the Stanley Cup, they would pick up some guys, and look, we got to give credit to the GM because he's the GM of the Penguins, and he would go out and get some guys, but he would get someone like a Ray Whitney, and that they actually need a player like that now.
Right, and they did. I think they went down that road. I think Ron Francis did that with Justin Williams.
Right.
But Justin Williams, at this point in his career,
he's not as much of a point guy as he used to be.
No, he's a complimentary piece. He was perfect on Washington as a third liner. He wouldn't face top checkers. He would mix in on the second power play. He got 24 goals. There, I think he's probably a top 6 guy, and I don't know if he can do that anymore at 36 or 37 years old or however old he is. So
right, I think he's 36.
Yeah, they need one more really talented scoring forward. If they get that before the deadline, and again, this is a team where they're loaded on defense, especially young, cheap defense. Then they
36. I mean, look, Williams is 5 points. He's just not going to score goals. That's
no. He could score 15 to 20, and that's good.
He had 24 last year, 22 the year before, but that was with Washington. With LA, he was 18, 19.
Yeah.
That's
even
that's
in
what you're
LA,
hoping.
Even in LA, Russ, he was a third line guy. He was not a top 6 guy.
No.
He came to the forefront in the playoffs, Mr. Game 7. But still, he's playing from a depth perspective. He's not a guy who's like I'm not saying he's not dependable. I'm just saying he's not the guy that teams worry about. He sort of sneaks up on you and then scores the big goal.
Right.
But I really think that Carolina, that Ron Francis, if they're going to make the playoffs this year, is going to have to at some point, and maybe it'll be a rental situation. We know that they're budget-wise, they're limited. And plus, I watched a little bit of that game yesterday. There were a lot of red seats. People just wearing Halloween costumes early and dressing up as red seats.
Yeah, but look, what was that? Their 7th game, so they still have time to group together. They do.
Okay, Montreal gets off the schneid, wins 5-1 over the Florida Panthers.
That's like an in-your-face Mike. That's what they did. They were like, in-your-face Mike.
Well, I have to say the incredibly brave Habs GM Mark Bergevin comes out today after being requested yesterday.
After a win.
And he comes out today after they get a win and faces the media when their bile was limited. They took themselves a Prozac or some sort of
Prozac, yeah.
So but so I mean, okay, they got some scoring. Carey Price played up to what Carey Price normally plays. Have to think one of the factors was they're playing against a team that has James Reimer in goal. We know that James Reimer is
sure, but you got to play somebody, and at some point you got to start. A lot of it is confidence too, right? We know that.
Yes.
And so that a game like that could give you confidence. Unfortunately, Reimer proved our point from the day before.
Right. And they did claim Antti Niemi, and probably with this injury, nobody seems to know the severity of the injury to Luongo, but the indications are that if they picked up Niemi off of waivers, that it might be something of a long-term nature. So all I know is this, and I speak of this as somebody who has experienced James Reimer as a number 1 goaltender. He's not a number 1 goaltender.
Right.
He's a nice guy. He's a very nice guy. I have nothing against him in that respect.
Oh, no, he's a real likable guy, great teammate. He's just not a number 1.
I've just seen him play over 5 or 6 years, and I know that he's not a number 1 goaltender. So
as long as Luongo's out, Florida's going to have a hard time even staying 500.
Right, and if Luongo is not Luongo when he comes back, then whatever minute chances of Florida making the playoffs are, I think, gone, because I don't think they can make the playoffs with the exodus that they had over the summer, plus going with Reimer, having to go with Reimer over Luongo. Interesting game. I watched a little bit of this one as well. LA and Ottawa. I was interested to see how LA played after a pretty good and lengthy effort against the Leafs in Toronto on Monday. They start Darcy Kemper. It was a battle of the backups, Kemper versus Mike Condon. Game went to a shootout. Adrian Kempa with a great move in the shootout gets the Kings a 3-2 victory. And the funny thing here, Russ, I don't know if you saw the video clip of it, when they came out for the overtime 3-on-3 at the face-off, there was something going on between Dustin Brown, Kopitar, and Doughty, sort of like an internal debate of who was going to take Erik Karlsson off of the face-off, and none of them wanted to. None of them. Which, because the guy has the potential of embarrassing any of them.
Yeah.
And even Karlsson recognized this was going on and got a laugh out of it. I thought it was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, so I mean,
I don't know what your agenda is here, but you have to mention the Vancouver Canucks because you like to lash out at them. I hope you will mention them.
I was going to.
Okay.
I was just going to, because that was one of the later games. I was just going down the list here.
Okay.
3-2 Calgary over Nashville. Calgary gets goals from Matthew Tkachuk and Michael Furlan, and then Tkachuk has had a real nice goal in the shootout to win it for Calgary. Now Calgary's gotten off to a little bit of a slow start. Like you said, 5-4, just a little bit over 500, but based compared to other teams in the Pacific, I mean, specifically Edmonton, who have struggled out of the gate.
Yeah,
they're rather well off. I have to say, going back to the Kings for a second, I wasn't sure that this resurgence was for real, based on the way that they're playing without Carter, and then last night without Quick in the lineup because it was back to back. I don't know if it was the message from Daryl Sutter was just getting tired. But I know that there's been
I think it's just Stevens is a good in-game tactician. They want to play with pace, and so far they've got the guys to do it. I think it's a little early because usually the Kings do the opposite here, and they start out slow, and then they look like they're going to make the playoffs at the end, and then come up late and don't do it, and they just But now they're doing the opposite, so I'm going to do the opposite of what I normally do with the Kings and think that they are going to make it, and now I'm going to take the wait and see.
Yeah, now I have to say, the young guys that they've put into the lineup, and at a certain point, these teams, Mike Fuda has a reputation of digging up diamonds in the rough. He's done it with Toffoli. He's done it with Pearson. I think indications are right now he's done it with Kempa, and they didn't rush him. I think he played almost a full year in the AHL last year. Played a few games, but he's only 21 years old. He looks ready, and some of the other kids.
Strong kid. No, he's a player.
Yeah, he's a player. Now switching to the game that you were mentioning, a real exciting 1-0 victory for the Vancouver Canucks over the Minnesota.
Win's a win, Mike.
What's that?
A win is a win.
Especially for the Vancouver Canucks.
And Anders Nielsen, that's like his second shutout of the year, right?
Yeah, win's a win for the Vancouver Canucks, especially.
I don't think I've even played Anders Nielsen in my fantasy league, afraid to play him. Now he's got 2 shutouts. I guess I got to start playing him.
Yeah, but okay.
They're 5-3-1. I mean,
Jake Virtanen with the goal. I tip the hat to Travis Green. The fact that he had Jake Virtanen in Utica, and I'm sure that is probably a lot more helpful to Virtanen than the treatment that he got under Willie Desjardins, because there was clearly not a connection in terms of messages there.
Right. And he stood somebody up the other day. I don't know who it was in a hit, but really showed the physical play that we expect Jake Virtanen to be able to pull off. And because he is a guy that has the offense, but he also has that grit in his game too.
Yeah, and here you go. This was the concern with Edler out and with Stetcher out. Here you go. 23 minutes for Michael Delzato, 24 minutes for Chris Tanev, 25 minutes for Ben Hutton, 20 minutes for Erica Branson. So they're playing. They're playing
the hell out of them.
They're playing the hell out of them because they have to.
It's like I said. I mean, I just did an interview that people can go to my SoundCloud this morning on Sirius. But it's like I said with the Rangers. It's like at some point you just got to go with the 4 guys that you think can do it. And, you just play the hell out of them. You don't worry about who your bottom pair is. You just put them in when guys are tired.
Yeah, and
I will say this. Delzato, who is all over Instagram and happens to be a great guy, teammate, and all those things, he's like Mr. Canuck right now. It's kind of funny. If you follow him on Instagram, like he is like everywhere. He, they showed him, I don't know where he was, but he had an owl on his hand. He basically either has a trained owl or he was like working with somebody, but it was crazy. Like I just seen a lot of stuff out of him, really embracing the Vancouver area, and that's cool for him.
Yeah, last game was a 5-3 win for the Colorado Avalanche over the Dallas Stars, and the curious moment here was after the game, because Ben Bishop got yanked in that game in favor of Kari Lehtinen, and after the game, and I'll give credit to the Dallas Stars here. They put this quote on their team page and tweeted it out.
Yeah.
Ben Bishop said there was no reason for me to come out I guess that's the coach's decision. I'm not very happy with the decision. Now,
and I heard Hitchcock's reply, and
yeah, I didn't hear it. What did he say?
And it's funny. Ken Hitchcock did this for effect, right, on the reply, because he's a very smart guy and he plays psychological games. And at least 4 times he said his team was slow. So, he basically, and meaning slow in skating, slow out of the gate. They were losing at the time, all of it, slow mentally. And so, Bishop could take offense to that or not. And he's got like a .920 save percentage, which right now in today's NHL is pretty high. Yeah. And you know what? Tough, because that's what happens when Ken Hitchcock's your coach. Be ready for that. He's never a goalie's best friend.
Yeah, but they really don't have – I mean, we saw from the season opener that they really don't have a plan B, because the plan B right now is Kari Lehtinen, and Kari Lehtinen led in a couple bad goals that gave momentum to the Vegas momentum engine. Because Dallas had that game in control at parts with Bishop and net, and then Bishop got hit with a shot. I think it was from James Neal. Never came back in the game. And Lehtinen, I mean, Kari Lehtinen he could be up there in terms of worst bang for the buck with Zach Bogosian. He's making almost $6 million, and he's a backup.
Yeah,
and he's not a very good backup.
No.
So they for that team, and there's a lot of talent on Dallas. They made a lot of moves in the offseason. They added Mathot. They added Radulov. They're a better team than they were last year. They added Bishop, obviously. They need Bishop to play up to his expectations for them to make the playoffs, because I still think they're a little bit challenged defensively. And if he doesn't, they might be in a little bit of trouble. I still think they can get into the playoffs, but they need Ben Bishop to be Ben Bishop.
They do. They really do. I mean, but again, Ken Hitchcock and goalies, like this is going to go on all year. It is. I mean, he sends messages. He does, and he wants, and really that was just about making sure he doesn't give up a lead. And they scored 3 goals, the other team did, in 4 minutes or something. And that really, he didn't like it.
Yeah. 2 games tonight, light schedule. Apparently the NHL does not want to go up against Game 2 of the World Series. The NBC, they love the Buffalo Sabres because the Sabres are on 2 consecutive nights. Sabres at Columbus.
They show the anchor bar.
Please.
Come on, I want to know.
No, because
so they don't do it for the Sabres. They only do it for the Bills.
They only do it for the Bills.
Why?
The same friggin' B-roll that they run every darn.
They do the same B-roll for the Jets with the Marino fake spike. The minute the Jets start losing in a game against Miami, the fake spike comes out. So I don't want to hear it.
It's Niagara Falls and it's the anchor bar.
But what did they show for the Sabres? What's the vignette for them? The B-roll.
There is none. None.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Not even like Gilbert Perreault's house? Nothing?
No. They don't even show Gilbert Perreault singing Elvis Presley, which they used to play after every game. Okay. Good show. We will be back tomorrow, maybe. We'll be in touch because we're having some scheduling difficulties. We'll let everybody know via Twitter.
Mike's not threatening to walk out. It's not like that.
It's not a lockout. It's not a walkout. It's just scheduling problems, folks.
I do have to tape my very important show on XM tomorrow, so I have to see about my schedule too.
Yes, so we will let everyone know.
We love the people out there, but we have other things to do.
Except for, we love Cousin Eddie, because if we say we don't love Cousin Eddie, he will.
Yeah, then he puts the mad horns, the mad horn face.
Right. So
and Cousin Eddie's still working on the parade route. He hasn't gotten it to me yet.
Stop it! Now you're gonna get a text. Come on, now you're gonna get a tweet. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.